Hey guys, it's Jasmine. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to do a card using the HUGS stamp set and die from Concord 9th. And we're going to start out with a piece of cardstock, your standard cardstock. I'm using Neenah Solar White, cut 4 inches tall by 11 inches long. And you're going to want to cut a separate piece of cardstock that is 7.5 inches wide. And you're going to use it to line up the dies. I got this tip from Jennifer McGuire, and I will link to her video in the description box. So something that I did that I think will be helpful is you want to line up the 2 tiny little pieces at the top of the die where they originally joined when you get them out of the package and you have to cut them apart. At that point, you want them to be even. Otherwise, after you die cut it, sorry, my camera's getting all wonky. After you die cut it, they won't line up properly to hook the HU and GS together. So you have to line up those 2 points at the top. That's kind of what I'm trying to show you in my video. So those little connection points right there. You want to make sure those are even with your die placement on your cardstock. Otherwise, they won't line up quite right. And you'll have gone to all that work for nothing. Ask me how I know. So I just took a scrap piece of cardstock and used that to line up those 2 points at the top, and use the 7.5 long inch piece of cardstock to make sure they're properly aligned so that they line up properly when you die cut it and then join them together. So I'm just kind of fidgeting with that second die to get it lined up just right. So after you run that through, you want to score 1 straight edge at 1 7/8 inch. So you're going to line up your straight edge to 1 7/8 and score it. I'm just using a scoring blade on my paper cutter. And you don't want to score both sides because they won't line up just right. I learned that the hard way too. So you only want to score one side. See, those are the 2 points I'm trying to make clear. You want to make sure those line up. So you fold one side and score it, and then make sure it's a nice crisp fold with a bone folder. And then do it carefully because you are using paper, it will tear. But you slide those 2 pieces together, and I'm a little bit off camera there. And then with the 2 straight edges lined up together, you're going to put that fold in the other side. And those 2 just hook together to close the card. Once you do it, it'll be easier to figure out to do it a second time. So I'm using a separate piece to do the inside of the card. I normally don't do the inside of my cards. I usually leave those blank, but I just love this bear. He is so stinking cute. So I stamp him using Memento Tuxedo Black ink because I'm going to color him with Copics, and that's a Copic friendly ink. And this panel measures 4 inches tall by 3.5 inches wide. And then I'm going to stamp those little citrus stamps using some Altenew inks, mango and cotton candy. So the mango is like orangey yellow and the cotton candy is a light pink. Oh, and I used coral berry too. So I wanted to add some more of the citrus slices, so I just stamped a mask, and I'm just using some Inkadinkado masking paper. So I stamped him real quick and then cut him out. So then I place a mask over my stamped piece, And then I can go in, and there's the cotton candy. I can go in and stamp my citruses that I want to kind of look like they're coming out from behind him a little bit. And you wouldn't ordinarily think of citrus with a bear, but there's other sentiments in this set that I think one of them is consider yourself squeezed, and I thought that was so clever. So I decided to throw them in because I think it's cute. So that is all stamped. We can remove our mask, and then we're going to color him. So starting with E74, which is a cooler toned light brown, well, medium brown. I wanted his snout and his belly to be a little bit lighter than the rest of his body. And the color that I go over the top of him with has more colorless blender in it. So you'll see as I color him that it kind of gives a little bit of a mottled look to the bear, which I actually really liked because it added a lot of texture to his fur. And I kind of learned how to do that in Sandy Onyx Copic Jumpstart class. So if you're interested in learning more about how to color with Copics, how to layer them, how to match up colors, the different effects you can get with textures and the different colors and blending and all that good stuff, take that class. It's really, really good. So then I went in with E23 and E27. I add the 27 along where his legs meet his belly, and then around his chin and where his arm meets his belly too. And then I went over the whole thing with E23. And then I just colored the bear sign using the same tones and tried to give a little bit of a wood grain look to it. So I added a few streaks and a couple little circles for the knot, and then blended over that. And then I went in with some C1 and N4 to give him a little bit of shadow on the ground, just to ground him so it doesn't look like he's floating amongst a sea of flying citrus. So there's the N4, and then I blended that out with C1. And I took a B00 just to outline him. And next we're going to do some ink blending. So I started with ink blending tool and more of the Altenew Mango Smoothie, and I went over the opposite corners. And then used cotton candy on the remaining corners. Then I set him aside and went back to the base. So we're going to do some ink blending on the base as well. I just cleaned any excess ink up real quick, just so it didn't contaminate. So here are more of the sentiments that are from the stamp set. And I'm using Sending More Your Way. So sending more hugs your way. I'm just kind of placing them and making sure I'm not going to overlap the HU or the GS. I'm trying to figure out the best way to use my MISTI to place these. So I'm going to mask off the HUGS, part of the more HUGS sentiment. Just using some post-it tape. And I'm gonna put some embossing ink over that. The cube there I'm using is Distress ink. If you have Versamark, use that too. That's what I normally use. That one was just handy. And I'm going to heat emboss those in some Sparkling Snow White Wow embossing powder. And by doing it in white, it's going to help them pop out against the ink blending we're going to do in a minute. And whenever you're heat embossing, remember to let your gun run for a good 30 to 60 seconds before applying it to your paper, and that way you will avoid warping as much as possible. So I'm adding some post-it tape along the fold, so I try to avoid getting ink on the back. And then using the same two colors of ink, we're going to do some ink blending. So Mango Smoothie on the top half and Cotton Candy on the bottom half. And you can do circular motions over the rectangle shape of the card. Over the die cut letters, you want to be really careful and really gentle because that can kind of fold up and crinkle up fairly easily. And whenever I'm doing ink blending, I do it in layers. So I'll go in, 3 or 4 times with each color until I build up to the intensity I like it. And I tend to take the lighter of the shades between each color to blend it. So I want a little more intensity of the yellow on the top of the GS. So I kind of pounced those a little bit to make sure I didn't crunch up the cardstock at all, or try not to. And then I go back over where they meet to kind of blend them so I get a little bit of an orangey pinky color. And then go back in with more pink to kind of intensify that. So basically the same process on the other side. Now when you flip your card over, you want to make sure that you're getting the ink on the correct side, because this will be backwards when you flip it. And when I put those together, I noticed that the bottom of the GS needed a little more pink so it would match up with the HU. And I'm trying to blend out that line there. So next I'm going to put some embossing ink, clear embossing ink, over the letters, and I'm going to heat emboss those using Ranger Holographic embossing powder. And it's a clear powder with a lot of stellar glitter in it. It's so pretty. And it really intensified the color, just kind of made it jump out at you, which I loved. And a great thing to pick up embossing powder with is a lint roller, case you get it all over like I do every time I use it. So now I'm just going to use some tape runner to attach the bare panel to the inside of the card. And an added touch that I don't think I got on camera, now that I look at it, was I took the citrus and I added some to the front cover just to kind of tie it in, using the tone-on-tone stamping. So it's just in the background. There's a still shot of it in direct sunlight, kind of brings out that pop of color. And then I've got a couple more stills, different, this version, another one, and the info for those cards will be on my blog. So thanks for joining me today. I will see you next time, and have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.